I've been on this thread of listening to therapists and sexologists talk about sex. And the reason why this topic interests me so much is because from a very young age, I decided that I was going to wait for marriage to have sex. And for a lot of my life, that was a choice that really surprised many. And honestly, like, I was very naive, and I thought that everybody in the Christian world believed the same way that I believed. And I thought that everybody in the Christian world was also walking this path. But it turns out that there are a ton of Christians that are engaging in sex before marriage, which the Bible calls fornication. And the Bible explicitly tells us that we shouldn't engage in fornication. The Bible does talk about our bodies being a temple and not defiling our temple and our bodies. But what does that actually mean, right? And so here I am listening to these to this sex trauma therapist and this sexologist, and they're talking about the implications and the dangers of having sex before marriage. And it's really interesting because a lot of the things that they were talking about, they're things that over the years I've thought about and have believed, but I never felt like I had a place to speak on it because I'm not like a professional. And so listening to these professionals and people that do this for a living has really opened up my eyes. But here's the thing that I want to talk about in regards to premarital sex. A while back, I talked about how, and this was on my Instagram story, I talked about how there are a ton of people that are struggling with sexual trauma. I guess what I want to do is just inform like the Christian community that when we talk about sex before marriage, it is something that is like, this is a topic of value because it does impact your life. Like, it impacts your mind, it impacts your heart and your emotions, and it absolutely impacts your body. And so I remember talking a little bit about that in my Instagram story, and I had somebody that had asked me the question, what would you tell somebody who has lost their virginity? Is there hope? And I had to sit on that for a minute because I wasn't sure like what the hope was for. Like, is there hope that they'll get married again? Is there hope that they'll have a good sex life again? Is there hope that God will redeem them? There is hope that people who have had sex before marriage, that they'll be able to get married. Now, depending on what church culture you grew up in, that might be a little bit harder to find, because unfortunately there is this double standard in the church where if the woman sleeps with somebody, she gets a bad name for it, but if the man sleeps with everybody, he's good. And in a lot of, I know that there have been cases where the man will break up with the woman because she slept with somebody else before marriage. And I'm talking specifically about church, like certain church denominations, and I won't name them. And that's really sad. Very, 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 very sad. But yeah, is there hope that you'll be able to get married? Yes, absolutely. God can absolutely send you a spouse that will love you and that will see you through his eyes, through the eyes of Christ, and not through the eyes of your past. So there is hope for that. Is there hope for a good sex life? Yeah, I would say there is hope for a good sex life, but that doesn't come without maybe taking some extra steps to get there. And I would say that if you are in the position where you are struggling in your intimate life because there are certain things that are happening in your intimate life, certain touches, like certain things that are triggering you, and they're stopping you from reaching that point of like, they're stopping you from reaching a climactic point and experiencing intimacy, then I would say please go to therapy. There are tons of different approaches to therapy that can help you with that trauma, because when you have sex with somebody, it is not just a mental experience. It really is stored in your body. So I would say go to therapy, find therapy. Don't stay there because it will affect you. It's no wonder that sometimes couples years down the road don't have any more desire to have sex. And it could be because there is such a past of sexual baggage that you bring into the marriage. So I would say, yes, there is hope, but it will come with a lot of work. And that's not always, it's not a bad thing. There is hope. And then the third thing is there hope that you could ever recover or be redeemed from that? Absolutely. The cross of Jesus makes it possible for us to receive forgiveness and to receive redemption and restoration. And so it's not like all is lost, but I would say to those of you that are engaging in that, and especially if you are a Christian, if this is not the person that you end up marrying, it will affect you. And even part two, because I almost got attacked by a wasp. But I would say for those of you that are engaging in sex before marriage with somebody that's not your husband, you don't have a guarantee that they're going to be your husband. And even if you are in a relationship where you sense the commitment and you've built a life that looks like marriage, but without the commitment, there is something to be said about somebody that could make you feel like you're a wife without actually making the commitment to make you their wife. So they can walk away at any time. So you don't have a guarantee that you are going to be with this person for the rest of your life. They've given you the benefits of the married life without making the commitment to you. And there is something that happens when you do make a commitment with somebody. There is a safety that comes when you make that transaction with somebody that's saying, I am willing to stay with you for the rest of my life. And until you have that, you really don't have anything to anchor yourself to. And so there is a wider open door for somebody to just walk away. And if they do, they were never married to you. So it's not like, you have to, you don't have to file for a divorce at that point, because you were never married. You were just another relationship for that person. So, yeah, I would say do it God's way, because it really does pay off. There are so many things that unfortunately come with having sex before marriage, and it is not God's will for you to carry those things into your future marriage. But if you're there and you're struggling with trauma, sexual trauma from, your past life, and especially if you've had a background of being very promiscuous and it's bleeding over into your intimate life, find help. Please find help. There is a ton of help out there. There are a ton of great therapists and a ton of great techniques in the therapy world that can help you with that. So, yeah, I guess I just wanted to come up on here and talk a little bit about that, and kind of intersect the psychology and therapy world with the Bible, because I do feel that if you strip away the science and psychology behind sex, it just sounds like a really oppressive command, right? But there is so much life and beauty in being in God's will and doing things God's way.